2009, la société Runic Games sortait sur PC un hack and slash nommé Torchlight. Jouable uniquement en solo, le jeu avait néanmoins ravi les joueurs par sa qualité. Cela n'était pas surprenant, l'équipe de Runic étant composée d'anciens membres de Flagship Studio et de Blizzard, avec notamment Max Schaeffer, un des créateurs du premier Diablo.
When we started Runic Games, one of our main goals was to put out a game quickly and get something on the shelves and get the company stable with a good revenue source. And so we decided to make a single-player RPG, which was a questionable decision in some people's minds, but it turns out that there is still a market for single-player RPGs, and it was a great success. Every review for Torchlight 1 said, this is a great game, except it needs multiplayer. And then we did the Xbox version, and every review said this is a great game, except it needs multiplayer. So it was pretty obvious what we had to do when we, for Torchlight 2. And what was cool about doing Torchlight 2 is that we had the game engine established, our tool set was established, the artists and the designers were used to using it, and Torchlight 1 was a very rushed project. So we had a new company, which means we had to buy new computers and new desks, and they were blank with no software on them. And 11 months later, we had a shipping product. So it was very fast, and a lot of that time was spent developing the tools and just getting used to it. So with Torchlight 2, we were able to hit the ground running. From day one on, we were able to actually make content and put it in and start mocking up multiplayer stuff. Even though it's been a longer development cycle, it's been much more efficient, and we've been able to make more stuff, which was really great because it's a much bigger game with outdoor areas and more dungeon types, and we needed to have that sort of efficiency. The character classes of Torchlight 2 follow from kind of a general theory we have on character classes, and you always want to be original with your character classes, so you don't want to do the same things that everyone has done. But at the same time, you want people to be able to look at your character classes and get a sense, an intuitive sense of what they are and how they work. So we want them to be original and yet familiar at the same time. So it's a challenge to design character classes. And so I think we came up with some really cool ones, to have a melee class like the Berserker, who is just almost insane, and he's got crazy eyes, and he does frenzied attacks. It's a different sort of feeling for a melee class character, and it's in contrast to the other melee class, which is the Engineer, who is much more, slower attacks and much more technology-oriented and, much less insane. And then, we've tried to do the same thing with our ranged classes, just have a slightly different take on it. Like with the Ember Mage, you can tell that she's just sort of she's almost the most traditional of the character classes because she uses elemental magics, and it's really a very traditional magic-using class. We blended a little bit of innovation with and the Outlander. Generally in fantasy role-playing games, you don't have gun use, and so we wanted to add that in just as really primitive guns and things because it's fun to play with. And so we made another range class that uses guns and can dual-wield pistols, and also can use a pistol and a sword if they want. So it's a very versatile class that brings some new flavor to the fantasy action RPG. The second game is so much bigger than the first one. As far as the raw assets, like the tile sets and just the number of variants, you go through more content in the first act of Torchlight 2 than was in the entirety of Torchlight 1. So it's just much bigger. Every time we make a new game, we do the random layouts differently. I think with Diablo 1, for example, it was really like a maze algorithm, and we had wall pieces and floor pieces, and it would generate a level. But what we found, there was always variance, but it made sort of generic and characterless areas. Now we make rooms out of larger chunks, and they're they're larger than the screen size, and those are the building blocks, the fundamental building blocks that make up a level. So we'd string together a bunch of those, and they have rules for like where the exits and entrances have to come into that block. But within those big blocks, there's additional randomness. So you can place things in those rooms that have only a 50% chance of being there, for example. So, and then we do the monsters on top of that in a separate pass, and the loot is computed on the fly also. So there's many layers of randomness. A lot of things surprised us along the way in making the game that were just little features that turned out to be have a profound effect. And one of them is that the pets in Torchlight 1 would go and sell your stuff, and just the little addition that now not only will they go sell your stuff, but you can give them a shopping list to bring you back potions. It completes that function of the pet where you can really keep playing and let the pet go deal with your commerce. It's a very small thing, but once you use it a few times, you realize that now you can never go back to not having it.
Torchlight 2 arrive dans un contexte plutôt chargé en hack and slash. Diablo 3 est sorti cette année et d'autres jeux comme Path of Exile sont en développement.
People have asked us a lot about releasing near where Diablo 3 is and worrying that we'll just be lost in the noise. I know that I bought Diablo 3 and I'm playing it. I think a lot of action RPG fans will buy and enjoy both, so we really don't worry about our proximity to that. And frankly, there's always something coming out. One of the things we've learned is there's many ways to make a successful game. There's no one particular formula. When you're making an action RPG, you're confronted with a lot of decisions to make. You have to make the intelligent decisions for what your game is. And our main competition is Diablo 3. While the games look similar on a superficial level, we've taken a lot of different decisions than they have. So whereas they wanted to create this economy that was very secure, that had meaning to the economy where you can trade items, we kind of took a different approach and said, players want to be able to play offline. They want to bring their single players into the multiplayer games and have that sort of flexibility too. So we're going to go the opposite way and say that we're going to have sort of an open architecture. We're going to encourage people to mod the game and come up with variations and new twists on what we've done. And so we're going to release our development tools, the very same tools we use to make the game. We're going to release in total to the public and see what kind of cool things they can make. I think both are very valid paths, and to be honest, as a gamer, I like having both of those options available.
Alors même que les fans de hack and slash sont scotchés sur Diablo 3, les possibilités offertes par Torchlight 2 leur font attendre le jeu avec impatience. Il ne manque plus qu'une date de sortie, que l'on dit être pour la fin de l'été.
The message I have for the people out there waiting is, be patient with us. We're notoriously bad at release dates, and as soon as we know when we're going to finish, we will let you know.